Tell me what your life was like before you died.
I grew up in the South Bronx, a very difficult neighborhood. Being Latino, we had these visions of what a man should be or what he should look like. And so I grew up in an environment where my father was teaching us how to survive in his mind, just so I could justify the behavior. His life was a little more complicated because his mother is indigenous. So he was kind of like wanted always to disguise that part of him. He thought it wasn't going to help him moving forward. He had that challenge, and then the language barrier coming in from Puerto Rico to live in New York, and the language is suddenly different, and he didn't know it. So there were a lot of challenges. So I grew up in that environment, complex community, trying to figure out how to get out of the hood. I was a little lucky. I was taken into a program that was a college-bound program, and I wound up going to school, studied engineering, and kind of got out of the hood, right? But I was living in a world where we were taught to be very competitive, and that was what men do. You compete, you climb the ladder, you know. And then there was this thing of acquisition of stuff, and this philosophy that everything belongs to me. So it was my house, my car, my wife, my kids, everything's mine. And I was living that life, and I thought that was what it was expected of me. I thought I was good. I'm doing the right thing. I'm on the right track. And we were getting ready to kind of get into this deal that we were putting together in South Florida. And I decided to go and run electrical lines for a while till that came through. So that was supposed to happen in April. I went back to running electrical lines in October. What happened was a very simple thing. It was Wednesday night. You can imagine tomorrow's Thanksgiving. I'm looking forward to that 4-day weekend. You got Black Friday. We got a lot of stuff going on. And the issue I'm having is that we're running late, and it's dark. It's going to get dark soon, but we got to finish. I'm up on the bucket, and what we decided to do to save time was let's not have this bucket going up and down. You kind of manage from one point to the other. And anyway, wasn't the brightest idea. So nothing exotic happened. I didn't get electrocuted or anything, but the driver was looking up, making sure that he didn't fry me, and he kind of bumped into a tree. And I hit the side of the bucket, and I broke all the ribs on my right side. So this whole side, just all my ribs broke. Go to hospital, of course, and they tape you up. They give you this medication. And they gave me medication that because of the ribs and everything that were broken, they wanted to give me something that had an anti-inflammatory component in it. So they gave me a painkiller that had ibuprofen. I take the pill in the hospital, they send me home, I go home, and I'm finding it very difficult to breathe. Let me call up. So I called him up, and I spoke with the ER guy, and he says, you're all taped up, you can't take a deep breath anyway. So I said, all right, and being science-minded myself, I said, well, they know what they're talking about, right? So I continued to take this medication, and my breathing slowly started to get worse and worse and worse and worse. And ultimately what happens is I get past the holidays, past New Year's, and this was an interesting New Year's because it was that Y2K thing where they thought everything was going to collapse and everything was going crazy. And there was like a vigil, right? Let's see what happens first when it hits midnight, all way over there first. Anyway, I got past all that, and I just got to the point where I couldn't breathe at all. And it was January 5th, and I had my wife and my son take me to the hospital. And I went in the ER, put me in a room. They decided they were going to keep me. So I said to my wife and son, you guys go home. I'm going to be okay. There's nothing to worry about, right? Anyway, they hooked up some IVs, and the nurse said to me, Jose, if you need any help, that little button that's by your bed, and I'll come in and I'll check on you. Anyway, she leaves the room, and I remember looking at the clock, and it's like 12:30, 1 o'clock in the morning. And I'm saying, I'm not going to push that button. I'm a guy. I'm not going to push the button no matter what. So don't worry about it. But the reason I'm saying that to myself is because I'm actually thinking of pushing that button because it's so hard to breathe. So I'm trying to kind of like make myself feel like everything's okay. I'm pretending everything's fine. I wait about 45 minutes, and I can't barely breathe. And I said, you know what? I think I better push that button. And it took about 1 minute for that nurse to come into that room. But that minute felt like forever. And she opened the door, and she just looked at me, and she just hit that cold blue button on the wall. Now in my mind, I'm saying, did she just hit that cold blue button on the wall? And then you hear the cold blue. And all of a sudden, there's a bunch of people running into it. I can't breathe at all. So I can't get air out, I can't get air in. So the first feeling that I had, if you can believe, was shame. And I felt the shame simply because when they moved into that room, they just stripped me down. They took the sheet off of me, and I was trying to hang on to it. And I was so ashamed that they stripped me down like that, and I was helpless, and I couldn't stop it. And they take this piece of a board, and they slip it under you, and they put you on top of this board. And anyway, there's all this stuff going on, but I'm kind of like in my own space, kind of like not understanding what they're doing. They got this thing on you, and they're squeezing it, trying to air into your lungs. And while they're doing all that, I'm thinking, what if this is real? I started thinking about my family, and I'm saying, I'm not going to see them again if this is real. And I felt this knot in my chest, like emotional knot. And it was like I was dying, thinking that I would never see them again. What was worse was that they wouldn't get a chance to see me. I wouldn't be able to say anything. Now, I couldn't talk anyway because I couldn't breathe, but in your head, that's not relevant. You're like, if they get here, I'll be able to talk. I'll be able to say goodbye or whatever, right? But anyway, and I also realized that it was almost 2:00 in the morning, and there's no way they're going to be able to get here in time. So I started to free fall emotionally and crash, and I became incredibly fearful. Now, understanding that I grew up in the South Bronx and how I grew up, we're not allowed to show fear. We were not allowed to cry. So I am so scared here because I'm thinking, what if this is real? And then I just want somebody to hold my hand. That's what I want. Just hold my hand. I don't care who does it. I wanted to ask someone, but then my head got in the way, right? And I'm thinking, all right, my father had died 5 years before, and he's going to turn in his grave if he sees that I'm showing these people fear. And that was my thought, man. I was like, I can't show fear. It went to the point where my body actually stiffened, and I said, that's it. I'm not going to show fear. I still wanted somebody to hold my hand because I felt so alone. Now, the room is full of people, but I felt so alone. And then I started thinking, I didn't believe in God. I was very science-minded, very math-minded. I had a conflict. My mother was Catholic. My father was indigenous. My mother said, go find God in church. My father said, look out the window. God is everywhere, right? And God would be creator. So I'm like, God, if you're real, I promise I'm going to change. I'm going to be a better person. I'm going to be a good man. I'm going to be whatever, right? So I was almost like bargaining. And then I waited. I said, all right, let's see if there's an intervention. Meantime, these guys are really struggling to keep me going. I can't breathe at all. My heart becomes very regular. So imagine they're pumping with all these drugs to get me to breathe, and my heart is racing. And what happens is that it reaches a moment where my heart just felt like a horse was galloping. It was going crazy. And then the next thing I know, you feel your heart stop. And then to kind of like validate that just happened, you hear the thing that was going beep, 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 just go beep. And the thing is that I was totally conscious and aware, and I'm saying, that just didn't happen. And my response was, I became angry at God. And I said, I knew you weren't real. What was I doing? I was just fooling myself. And then I looked at the doorway, which was right in front of me. And it was just so bright, man. And there was a shadow there. And in my mind, I'm thinking, like an engineer, I'm going to get turned off like a light switch, and I'm going to turn to nothing. I'm just blackness. The minute that thought goes through my mind, that shadow, and it reaches out. To me, it's perfectly clear. While that's happening, I hear the IB drips, and it sounds like water splashing on a tin roof, when you're in the island, like rain hitting a tin roof. And then I looked at the wall, and the wallpaper, I could see the grain in it. Kind of like, wow, what is this? Then my focus was on the shadow, and as the shadow moved in, she kind of reached out. It felt like a feminine energy to me. She kind of reached out, and she touched me. And the minute she touched me, I became like galvanized. I was like, oh man, I felt so well. I felt so unsick. I felt so better than ever. And I felt this breeze and this sense of peace and love and calm. And I got this wind blowing. In my head, I'm thinking, I got this long hair blowing in the wind, and you get crazy vision. So I feel like I'm being lifted. And the next thing I know, I'm standing in the corner of the room. This is what really changed my life. This moment when I saw myself there in the bed, and these guys were trying to save my life. So you got that crash team, they're doing everything they can to save me. And then I asked this question, and this is a question that changed my life. Every day I ask, who am I? Because I know I'm not this, temporary. So I asked that question, and I hear this voice. My left, she says to me, visualize yourself as a car, except that car has 5 million miles on it. Now you gotta say goodbye to your body. And I'm thinking, wow, I just said goodbye to life. I gotta say goodbye to my body. So I think something magical happened. I looked at my body, and for the first time in my life, I had so much gratitude and love for that vessel. And the thought was, that body sacrificed itself for me. It gave everything it had for me, and it just didn't have anything left. And then I started having these memories, and I call them benign memories because they weren't like, we think about these dramatic moments in our life, and that's what we're going to remember. I remembered holding my little brother's hand, little kiss, taking a breath of air, the sunrise, the wind, the birds singing. I remember looking in my kids' eyes when they were little, how they looked at me with so much love, and how they depend on you so much, right? And what I realized at that moment was that I had that every moment of my life. My guys here, my kids, and love that moment, feel that breath, feel that warm sun on my skin. And here I am understanding the value of life, and it's too late. I'm understanding that I have all these things and they're all free. They don't come with any cost, any hopes, nothing. And I was worried about buying another car, getting a better coffee machine, getting, all these crazy things. And I'm like, what was I doing? But it made me love who I had been. For everybody out there, this is really important. I always was never happy with who I was. I was never good enough, no matter what. And that made my life difficult. And now looking at my body and seeing how perfect that body had been the first time, it was the second moment where I just changed. I hear the voice say to me, okay, now we gotta go, kind of like. So we start walking together, and I kind of fall through this hole, this black hole, I call it, tunnel. And I feel like something being ripped off of me. It's uncomfortable. Get to the bottom, she said, no, we gotta keep going. I keep going, the same thing happens again. And when I get to the bottom of that, I find myself in a ball, color all around me, like 360. I think, imagine you're in the center of a basketball, and everything around you is color, and it's moving, and it's alive, and it's talking to me. A million voices. That voice that brought me there says to me, what you felt was all the painful moments in your life being taken away from you. You can't come into this place with any negativity, anything that makes you feel bad. And I understood that I was just being kind of like purified. Anyway, I feel the color moving towards me, or I'm moving towards the color. The sense is that the color welcomes me the way I am. It doesn't judge me in any way. And I just feel so good, so appreciated, so like welcomed, and so like a part of it, like I really belong here. And finally I get in the color, and I become the color, and I feel like red and blue. And I hear all these voices, and I'm not a painter, but it was telling me how to paint. Me like a blueprint. You're gonna paint like this. You're gonna start with this. You're gonna do this. You're gonna do that. Then I come out on the other side, and I see this beautiful forest. Now, I grew up in New York City. Forest and mountains are the last thing I would imagine that was gonna be what I encountered. And then these herds of animals roaming around, running free, and it was so beautiful. And I got a thought, remembering my kids, and I said, what's gonna happen to my kids? The voice said to me not to worry. I could see them. The next thought was flying. And then I started moving, exploring in my mind. And as I got near a tree, what was interesting about it was I had this experience of oneness. What I mean was that if I got near a tree, I became that tree. I could feel it taking nutrients from the ground. I could feel its heartbeat. It was living being like me. If I got near a bird, the same thing. If I got near a leaf, the same thing. Even the air, the atmosphere, I could feel it. And I got to experience all these things, even a rock. And it taught me that everything was interconnected. As I'm kind of like integrating that, I see these mountains in front of me, and I see the snow cap. And it was so galvanizing that I wanted to go up there and see what that was like. So I started heading up in that direction, get up there, and I go over it, and I can see the mountaintop and the snow. It was like being in an airplane, just flying over a mountaintop. And it was so beautiful and so peaceful. And then I look to my right, and I see the sun. And the sun, I don't know if it's setting or rising, but I'm looking at it as if I'm looking through a telescope, and I can see the solar flares coming out of it. And it was so beautiful. And I can feel that warm breeze. And I'm saying to myself, oh, this is where the warm breeze is coming from. And I look to my left. There's a cove. It's like a U-shaped beach. And I see a man, and he's holding 6 children in a line on his right hand and 1 on the left. They're about knee deep in the water. For some reason, I said, let me go down there and check that out. So I go down. It's hard to gauge time and distance. There is really no time the way we understand it here. So I felt like I had been there for a day and a half already. Now, I'm only dead for 5 minutes in this world. Anyway, as I get close, I'm about 10 or 15 feet away maybe, and the man turns around and he looks at me. My father. And I looked at my dad, and I said, man, I'm going to do when I'm dead what I couldn't do when I was of my father. I love him, that I care, and all that stuff. Now, my dad had this real image of being a man was like, we can't hug, we don't say we love each other, we don't have that kind of relationship, we don't even hold hands when we're little, that was what your mother does. So I grew up bitter and angry. And when he died, it was so difficult for me. Everything that I'm feeling right now, that chance was gone. I lost that moment. But now here I was, and now the moment was here. I looked at my dad, and we're talking, but not like I'm talking to you. I was so proud of you when you graduated. I was so proud of you when you went to college. I was so proud of you. I loved you, all these things that I thought were not there. And then I hugged my father. I hugged for the first time. And what happened when I hugged my dad is I became him. Just like what happened with the trees and everything else. And I lived his life in an instant, and I knew what he had been through. Now, I always find a contrast between that, because when I was alive, I didn't want to die. Now I'm here. He's asking me to go back, and I'm like, no, man, I don't want to go back. And we have this debate. Then I feel like this tug right here, right? But it's really coming from my back. The next thing I know, I'm back in my body. I open my eyes, and the doctor's doing sleep. When I opened my eyes, she kind of just jumped back like that. And then I was back with my father. And then 2 things happened right away. I felt this isolation, because I felt like I was inside this body again. And I felt like I was separate from everything. When I was over there, I was part of everything. Now I just feel a separation. I'm back in this body. Everything's not connected to me anymore. And I crashed when I got better and I was able to speak. And so what I did was I went back to that bowl side where I felt completely unjudged and so welcome. I found peace there. And that was my go-to, my escape. Cold brew, that bowl with all those colors. The words that you tell someone can change their life forever. So the practice is engineered to help you to understand who you are. And if you understand who you are, then I could understand who Alex is. I could understand who every one of you are, because we're all more alike. We all do the same things. We all need to be loved. We all want to be happy, peace and calm in our life. This is a chance where I get to touch and feel. And I could touch things in a good way, touch, to feel, to see, to love. I mean, look at the magic that your body does. This is what matters. And then what feeds this life are the memories that I make. That's what I store. That's what I take. And then what matters is that good feeling is what you hold on to.